The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland, biting at Jackson Kane's face, even through his cracked visor. Snowflakes like shards of glass cut into his exposed skin as he stumbled forward, each step sinking into icy drifts. His boots were soaked, his fingers numb. His squad was going to killed, scattered, or worse. Kane was alone now. The alien battlefield stretched endlessly around him. Burned-out wrecks of human and alien vehicles lay half-buried in the snow. Blackened craters still smoked. Faintly, bodies both human and alien lay, frozen in twisted shapes. He didn't look at them anymore. He couldn't. The only sound was the crunch of his boots and the faint hum of his failing power pack. If he didn't find shelter soon, he would freeze to death. But then, he heard it. A sound, faint, soft, almost lost in the howling wind. At first, Kane thought it was his imagination. His mind was cracking under the cold and the isolation. But no, there it was again. A cry. Weak, high-pitched. It was coming from ahead, near the wreckage of a downed alien transport ship. Its twisted metal ribs stuck up from the snow like the bones of a giant creature. Kane hesitated. He should keep moving. He couldn't afford to waste time or energy. This war zone was no place for heroes, but the cry came again shaky. Desperate. Kane gritted his teeth and changed direction. Trudging toward the wreckage, the alien ship was mostly destroyed. Its hull cracked open like an egg. Black scorch marks covered its sides, and glowing alien glyphs flickered weakly. Inside, the smell of burnt metal and ozone clung to the air. Kane stepped carefully, his rifle raised. "Hello?" called out. His voice was hoarse, barely audible. "Over the wind? Is anyone alive?" At first there was no answer, just silence and the creak of shifting metal. Then, movement. From under a broken piece of the ceiling, two small shapes crawled out. Kane froze. They weren't human. Two alien girls, no older than 6 or 7 in human terms, stared at him with wide, glowing blue eyes. Their skin was pale, almost translucent, and faint lines of light ran across their faces like veins. Tiny pointed ears twitched in fear. One of them clutched the other tightly. The smaller one was shivering violently, her lips turning a darker shade of blue. Kane lowered his rifle slightly. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly, trying to sound calm. "Not going to hurt you." The girls didn't understand his words, but they could feel his tone. The older one blinked slowly, her tiny hands trembling. Kane stepped closer and saw their condition. Their clothes were torn, their bare feet frostbitten. One had a deep gash across her arm, the blood frozen into dark. Crystals? They weren't soldiers. They weren't a threat. They were just kids. Kane looked around. Where were their people? Why had they been left here? His stomach twisted as he realized the truth. The alien forces had abandoned them, the humans. They would have killed them on sight. The war didn't care about children, but Kane did. He knelt in front of them. "You're not going to make it out here," he murmured. "We got to move." The older girl flinched as he reached for her. "It's okay," Kane said again. Slowly, he removed his helmet, letting them see his human face. His lips were cracked from the cold, and blood streaked his cheek, but his eyes were steady and kind. "See, I'm just a man, not your enemy." The older girl stared at him. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. Kane pulled off his tattered cloak and wrapped it around both of them. "Hang on to me," he said. He scooped them up, one in each arm. They were light, frighteningly light, as if they hadn't eaten in days. The smaller girl whimpered and buried her face in his chest. Kane's muscles screamed in protest as he stood. He was already exhausted, and now he had double the burden. But he didn't care. "Let's get you out of here," he whispered. The wind howled louder as he trudged across the snow. His arms ached, his visor fogged up, but he couldn't risk stopping. Every so often he glanced over his shoulder. The alien. Drones would be patrolling soon. He knew how they worked, machines with no mercy, programmed to hunt down survivors. If they saw him carrying 2 alien girls, they wouldn't hesitate to kill all 3 of them. After what felt like hours, Kane spotted a rocky outcrop ahead. Shelter he staggered toward it, slipping on the ice. His knees buckled, but he didn't let go of the girls. At last, he reached a narrow cave entrance. Inside, it was dark but dry. Kane set the girls down gently and collapsed against the wall. His breath came in ragged gasps. The girls huddled together, staring at him with wide eyes. Safe. For now, Kane panted, but deep down he knew they weren't safe. Not really. The drones would find them, and when they did, Kane tightened his grip on his rifle. Not while I'm still breathing, he thought grimly. Not while they still need me. The cave walls shook as the storm outside roared louder. Snow and ice blew hard against the narrow entrance. But it was still warmer than the open wasteland. Kane sat with his back against the stone, trying to keep his eyes open. He had no strength left. His body ached, and his fingers were stiff with cold. But every time he looked at the two alien girls huddled under his cloak, he forced himself to stay awake. They needed him. The older girl, Kalira, stared at him with wide, glowing blue eyes. Her little sister, Sira, had fallen asleep in her lap, shivering in her dreams. Kane broke a ration bar in half and handed it to Kalira. "Eat," he said softly. She hesitated. Her small, frostbitten hands shook as she took the food. She didn't understand his words, but she could sense he meant no harm. Kane's ears pricked. "Eh?" A faint buzzing sound came from outside the cave. His eyes narrowed. He knew that sound. Drones, the enemy's hunter machines. They scanned the wasteland after every battle, searching for survivors. They didn't take prisoners. Anyone they found was killed on sight. Kane cursed under his breath and pulled his rifle. Closer, he peeked outside. Through the swirling snow, faint red lights flickered in the distance. 3, no. For drones, they were moving in a search pattern, sweeping the area with scanners. "They're tracking us," Kane whispered. Kalira tilted her head. Confused, Kane touched the faint glowing patterns under her skin. "You," he muttered. "Giving off a signal, aren't you?" She didn't answer, but her wide eyes told him enough. The girls weren't just helpless refugees. Someone wanted them found and killed. Kane's mind raced. He couldn't fight for drones, not in his condition. He couldn't stay here either. The only chance was to run. He knelt and looked Kalira in the eye. "Listen," he said slowly, gesturing to her and then pointing outside.
"Now we move."
Kalira looked down at her sister, then back at Kane. She nodded. The storm outside was worse than before. The cold bit into Kane's face as he lifted Sira into his arms and grabbed Kalira's hand. "Stay close," he said. The snow was knee-deep, and the wind howled like a living thing. Every step felt like dragging his boots through wet cement behind them. The faint hum of drones grew louder. Red searchlights cut through the whiteout. Scanning the ground, Kane moved faster, his heart pounding. They reached a small ridge. Kane crouched low and peeked over the edge. The drones were closer now. One hovered barely 50 meters away. Its scanners pulsed with an eerie glow as it swept back and forth. Kane's breath caught in his throat. If the drones found them, it was over. He pulled Kalira close and whispered, "Quiet, no sound." Her eyes glistened, but she nodded. The drone stopped. It turned slightly, its sensors locking on something. Kane's muscles tinned. Did it see us? For a heartbeat, the machine hovered silently. Then it turned away. Kane let out a slow breath. "Move," he whispered. They slid down the other side of the ridge. Snow sprang around them. But as Kane stood, sharp crack echoed in the distance. He froze. The drones had fired a probe into the snow. The faint beeping of the probe grew louder. It was scanning for heat signatures. Kane sprinted, his boots crunching hard. The probe beeped faster. Kalira struggled to keep up. Her tiny legs wobbled in the deep snow. Kane grabbed her arm and pulled her forward. "Run," he barked. Behind them, the first drone let out a shrill, mechanical screech. It had found them. Red beams shot through the blizzard, slicing into the snow. Around them, Kane ducked low. Clutching Sira tightly, he He felt the heat of a blast as it scorched the air behind him. The drone's hum grew louder as it accelerated toward them. A rocky outcrop loomed ahead. Kane pushed Kalira toward it. "Hide there," he shouted. She scrambled into a narrow gap between two boulders. Kane followed, just as the drone's searchlight swept over the area. The rocks cast long shadows. They were invisible for now. Kane set Sierra down gently and raised his rifle. The drone hovered closer. Scanners worry. Kane steadied his breath. He had one shot. The moment the drone's red eye came into view, Kane fired. The bullet struck the sensor dead center. The drone screamed as its circuit sparked. It spiraled out of control, crashing into the snow with a fiery explosion, but the sound had drawn the others. Kane heard more drones in the distance, their hum rising in pitch. "They know where we are," he said grimly. He looked down at the girls. Kalira's lip trembled, but she held his gaze. There was no time for fear. Kane grabbed his rifle and stood. "We can't stop. Not here." He picked up Sierra again and motioned for Kalira to follow. "Stay with me. No matter what." The snowstorm grew heavier, almost blinding. Kane could barely see 5 feet ahead, but that worked in their favor. The drones. Scanners were having trouble cutting through the dense snow. It bought them precious time. After what felt like hours, Kane spotted a faint glow in the distance. A cave, bigger than the last one. It might be a good place to hide or trap, but they had no choice. Kane stumbled inside. Collapsing against the icy wall, his arms ached from carrying. Sierra, his lungs burned with every breath, but they were alive. For now, Kalira crawled next to him, clutching her sister tightly. The faint glowing lines under their skin pulsed softly. In the dark, Kane watched them, his mind racing. Who are these girls? Why are they so important? And most importantly, how far was he willing to go to keep them alive? Suddenly Kalira spoke. Her voice was soft, trembling. "Who, man?" Kane blinked. She had learned his word. "Yes," he said quietly. "Human." Her glowing eyes locked on his. "Human. Save." Outside, the faint hum of drones echoed in the storm. They weren't safe yet, but Kane felt a surge of determination. "No," he whispered, "I won't let them take you." He checked his rifle and leaned against the cold stone. "If they want you, they'll have to get through me first." The cave was dark and silent, except for the soft sound of shallow breathing. Kane sat near the entrance, gripping his rifle tight. His eyes stayed fixed on the storm outside. Snow blew hard across the opening, carried by icy winds that howled. Like wild animals, he couldn't rest. Not now. Somewhere out there, the enemy drones were still searching. But Kane's mind wasn't just on the machines, it was on the girl's Kalira. And Sierra slept huddled together under his battered cloak. Their glowing blue skin lit up faintly in the darkness, casting eerie patterns across the stone walls. Kane had never seen aliens like them before, most of their kind. The Elysians were warriors, politicians, or cold scientists, but these two were fragile, innocent, and different. As Kane watched them, he noticed something strange. The glowing lines under their skin were moving, slowly shifting, like rivers of light flowing beneath the surface. He leaned closer. Symbols like alien writing formed for a moment, then faded. "What are you?" Kane whispered. Kalira stirred. Her glowing eyes fluttered open. She stared at him for a long moment before speaking softly. "Core. Bearer." Kane's heart skipped a beat. He didn't understand their language, but he knew those words. He'd heard them in scattered human intelligence reports. The core was a mython, ancient energy source said to hold the power to create or destroy worlds. It had been lost for thousands of years. Now these girls were saying they carried it. Kane's grip on his rifle tightened. No. Wonder the drones were hunting them. If the Elysians found out their own children were core bearers, they'd either use them as weapons or kill them to keep the secret hidden, and humanity it would do no better. Everyone wanted power. But Kane wasn't like them. He didn't want power. He just wanted to keep the girls alive. Core bearer, Kane repeated quietly. Kalira nodded. Bad people come. Her words were broken, but the fear in her voice was clear. Yes, Kane said. Bad people are coming. But I won't let them take you. Kalira stared at him for a long moment. Then she whispered something in her own language. So soft Kane almost didn't hear it. It sounded like human. Protector. Suddenly a sharp sound echoed from outside. Kane spun around. Raising his rifle, he moved silently to the cave entrance and peered out. Through the snow, faint red lights flickered in the distance. Drones. Again. But there was something else. A larger shape moved through the storm. A walking machine tall, armored. With twin cannons on its shoulders, a hunter mech. It was rare for the Elysians to send mechs for cleanup missions. That meant only one thing. They knew the girls were alive, and they weren't going to stop. Kane ducked back inside. He looked at the girls. We can't stay here. Kalira's lip trembled. Cold. Out. There. I know, Kane said softly. But if we stay, they'll find us. We have to move. Kalira whimpered and clung to her sister. Kane knelt in front of them. Listen. You have to trust me. I'll get you out of here. He tore his cloak in half and wrapped each piece tightly around the girls. Then he pulled Kalira close and whispered, You're not going to die here. Not on my watch. Kalira didn't understand all the words, but she understood the look in his eyes. And for the first time since, Kane had found her. She nodded without hesitation. The three of them stepped out into the blizzard. The cold slammed into Kane like a hammer. But he pushed forward. Behind them, the red lights grew brighter. The mech's heavy footsteps thudded through the snow. It was only a matter of time before it spotted them. Kane scanned the terrain. Ahead, jagged cliffs rose high into the sky. If they could reach higher ground, they might lose the machines in the storm. But it was a gamble. His body was already near its limit. And the girls, they were even weaker. They climbed snow, and ice cracked under Kane's boots as he pulled Kalira up and carried Saray on his back. His breath came in ragged gasps. Every muscle screamed in protest. But he didn't stop. Halfway up, a beam of red light swept across the slope. The mech had spotted them. No. Mechanical screech echoed through the storm. Kane cursed and pushed harder. Blaster fire ripped into the snow. Around them, steam hissed as the heat melted ice in violent bursts. Kane ducked low, shielding the girls with his body. A chunk of rock exploded above his head, showering them with debris. Keep moving, Kane shouted. The slope narrowed into a ledge barely wide enough for his boots. One slip, and they'd fall into the abyss below. But Kane didn't hesitate. He hugged the wall, inching along with Kalira, pressed against him and Sierra clinging to his back. The mech roared below. But its massive frame couldn't follow up the narrow path. Instead, it deployed smaller drones. 3 of them shot upward, their red eyes glowing like angry coals in the white storm. Kane reached the top of the ledge and set the girls down. Stay here, he ordered. He raised his rifle and took aim at the first drone. The bullet struck true. The drone spiraled down, crashing into the snow below, but the other 2 darted closer. Firing streams of plasma that lit up the storm, Kane rolled to the side as a blast scorched the ground where he'd been. He fired again, hitting the second drone's engine. It exploded in a ball of fire. The third drone was faster. It zipped toward the girls, its claws extended. Kalira screamed. Kane's heart stopped. He had no clear shot. Suddenly, a burst of light flared from Kalira's chest. The drone froze mid-air as glowing tendrils of energy wrapped around it. Its circuits sparked wildly. Then it dropped, lifeless. Kane stared in shock. Kalira's glowing skin slowly dimmed. She collapsed to her knees, trembling from exhaustion. Kane rushed to her side. What did you do? He whispered. Kalira looked up at him, her blue eyes wet with tears. Core, protect, she murmured weakly. Kane's mind raced. If she could control energy like that, even without training? What would happen if she learned to use her full power? Behind them, the mech roared again. More drones were launching. Kane knew they couldn't fight them all. He picked up Kalira and Sira. "You saved me," he said softly. "Now it's my turn." As the storm howled around them, Kane pressed forward. Into the unknown. He didn't know where they were going, but he knew one thing. He would protect the girls to his last breath. The storm was gone, but the cold wasn't. Thin sunlight broke through the clouds. Casting a pale glow over the snowy wasteland, Kane trudged forward, his boots crunching in the ice. Kalira walked beside him, clutching his hand tightly. Sira slept. In his arms, her small head resting on his shoulder, the climb had drained them all. Kane's muscles ached, and every breath burned in his chest. But he didn't stop. He couldn't. The enemy wouldn't rest until they found the girls, and Kane wouldn't let that happen. Ahead, jagged rocks rose like broken teeth from the snow. Beyond them was a narrow valley, its entrance barely wide enough for a man to pass through. It could be a trap, or it could be their only chance to hide. Kane hesitated, scanning the terrain. Nothing moved. No drones. No mechs. Just silence. "All right," he muttered. "Let's see what's in there." The valley walls closed in as they walked. The air felt heavier here. Kalira looked nervous, her glowing eyes darting to the shadows. "It's okay, Kane," said softly. "Stay close." Halfway through the valley, a sound made him freeze. A faint click, then another. Kane's instincts screamed. "Get down," he barked. He dropped to one knee, shielding the girls with his body. A flash of light burst. From the rocks above, a net made of crackling energy fell over them. Wrapping tight, before Kane could react, figures stepped out of the shadows. 5 of them tall, armored Elysians, their weapons aimed directly at him. Their leader, an alien with dark skin and sharp silver eyes, spoke in a deep, commanding voice. "Human," he said. "Step away from the core bearers." Kane's grip tightened on his rifle. "Not gonna happen," he growled. The alien leader tilted his head. "You protect them?" "They're kids," Kane snapped. "I don't care what you want with them. You're not taking them." The alien raised a hand, and his soldiers stepped closer. Kalira whimpered. Clinging to Kane's arm, Sira stirred, her small fingers gripping Kane's jacket. "Stay behind me," Kane whispered. Suddenly, one of the Elysians spoke in a different tone. "We are not your enemy." Kane frowned. "Could have fooled me." The alien leader lowered his weapon slightly. "If we meant to kill you, you'd be dead already." Kane hesitated. That was true. The energy net could have fried him instantly, but it hadn't. "Who are you?" Kane demanded. The leader's silver eyes narrowed. "Outcasts. Rebels. We fight against the High Command." "Why?" "Because they've lost their honor. They hunt their own children to preserve their power. We will not let them." Kane's heart pounded. "Then why trap me?" "See if you are a friend or foe." The alien gestured, and the energy net vanished with a crackle of light. "You saved the core bearers," the leader said. "For that, you have our respect." Lyra peeked out from behind Kane. "Safe?" she asked softly. Kane glanced at the rebels. "For now," he muttered. The alien leader stepped forward and knelt in front of Kalira. "You carry the core," he said gently. "Do you know what that means?" Kalia shook her head. "You are the future of our people," he said. "But only if you survive." Kane's eyes narrowed. "Why do you care?" The leader looked at him. "Because if the High Command gets them, they'll twist the core's power into a weapon. Entire worlds will burn." Kane stayed silent. He didn't fully trust these rebels, but he didn't have much choice. "We can help you," the alien said. "Our base is not far. There. We can hide the girls and give them food, medicine, safety." Kane's grip on his rifle tightened. "Or you could turn us in and collect a fat bounty," he said coldly. The alien's silver eyes hardened. "You're cautious. Good. That might keep you alive." For a long moment, Kane weighed his options. Go with them and risk betrayal, or stay alone and risk certain death. He looked down at the girls. Kalira's face was pale. Sira's breathing was shallow. They needed food. Warmth? Rest? Fine, Kane said finally. We'll go with you. Alien leader nodded, but hear me, Kane added. If you try anything, I won't hesitate to kill every last one of you. The leader's mouth curved in a faint smile. I wouldn't expect any less from a human. The group moved quickly through the valley. Kane stayed close to the girls, his rifle ready. The rebels were quiet but alert, scanning the skies for drones. After an hour of trekking through snow and rock, they reached a narrow cave entrance hidden behind an ice shelf. Inside, he'd radiated from alien generators. Rebel soldiers nodded as the group entered. The alien leader turned to Kane. You are safe here. For now. Kane didn't lower his rifle. Let's hope it stays that way. As the girls were given food and blankets, Kane finally allowed himself to relax just a little, but deep down, his instincts still whispered, trust no one, because in this war, the only thing more dangerous than an enemy was an ally with hidden motives. The hidden rebel base was quiet. It's too quiet. Kane sat in a dim corner, his rifle resting across his knees. His eyes never stopped scanning the room. The alien rebels moved like ghosts, their armored boots silent against the stone floor. They spoke little, and when they did, their voices were low and sharp. Kaliera and Sira slept nearby, wrapped in thick blankets. The glow under their skin had dimmed, but Kane didn't know if that meant they were safe or fading. He didn't trust this place, and he didn't trust these rebels. The leader. Commander Vale approached. You haven't slept, Vale said. Not planning to, Kane replied flatly. Vale studied him for a moment. You're cautious. That's wise. Spit it out, Kane said coldly. Right. Why are we really here? Tell me you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart. Vale's silver eyes narrowed. You think I'm lying? I think everyone wants something, Kane said. Even you. Vale was silent for a moment. Then he said, You're right, I do want something. But it's not what you fear. Before Kane could reply, a loud crack echoed from the far side of the base. Both men spun toward the sound. The rebels in the room froze, hands going to their weapons. Then came shouting, Intruders. Vale's face hardened. Stay here. Protect the girls. He drew his blade and sprinted toward the sound, his soldiers following close behind. Kane's stomach twisted. Intruders? Or something worse? Clara stirred, her glowing eyes blinking open. Bad people, she whispered. Kane tightened. His grip on his rifle. Stay down. Don't make a sound. The shouting grew louder. Blaster fire echoed through the tunnels. Screams, metal clashing against metal, and then silence. Dead silence. Kane's instincts screamed. This wasn't a normal fight. This was something. Footsteps approached. Slow, heavy. Not the rebels. Not. VA yelled out. Kane raised his rifle, aiming at the narrow passageway. The footsteps stopped. For a long moment, there was only the sound of dripping water. Then, a familiar mechanical. Kane's blood ran cold. Drones. The passageway lit up with a red glow. Kane fired first. His bullets ripped through the narrow gap, striking the lead drone. Sparks flew as it collapsed in a heap, but more came. 3, 4. 5 of them. Kane backed up, firing in short bursts. Kalira. Run, he shouted. She hesitated. Run. Kalira grabbed her sister's hand and bolted toward the back exit. Kane followed, covering their retreat. The drone surged forward, plasma bolts sizzling past his head. One shot struck the wall, spraying molten rock across his shoulder. Kane gritted his teeth and kept moving. The narrow escape tunnel opened into a wider chamber, but Kane froze ahead. Blocking their path stood another figure, a rebel soldier, but his weapon wasn't aimed at the drones. It was aimed at Kane. You're not going anywhere, human, the soldier sneered. Kane's stomach sank. Traitor, he growled. The soldier smirked. You really thought Vale's little rebellion was pure? Half of us are still loyal to the high command. Kane's finger twitched on the trigger. Move. Now. Or what? The soldier taunted. Kalira whimpered behind Kane. The soldier's eyes flicked to her glowing skin. Hand them over.
how you
can still walk out alive. Wrong answer, Kane said coldly. He fired. The bullet hit the soldier's shoulder, spinning him around, before the man could recover. Kane charged and slammed the butt of his rifle into his face. The rebel crumpled. To the ground, Kane turned to the girls. Move. Now. The three of them sprinted through the exit. Behind them, drones swarmed into the chamber. Blaster fire ripped through the air. Kane didn't look back. He just kept running. The tunnel opened into the freezing night. The storm had cleared, revealing a sky full of alien stars, but Kane didn't stop to admire it. He led the girls into the dark forest beyond the cliffs. Every sense alert. When they were finally deep among the trees, Kane stopped. He set Sierra down gently and scanned the shadows. Kellera stood close to him, trembling. Why? Bad people, she asked softly. Kane's jaw tightened. Because some people would rather kill you than let you live free. Kalira's eyes glistened. You? Save us. Kane looked at her. Her small face was pale with exhaustion, but her glowing eyes held a spark of hope. Yes, he said firmly. I'll save you, no matter what. But deep down, Kane knew the truth. They were alone again. The drones wouldn't stop. The High Command wouldn't stop. And now, even the rebels were divided. The only people he could trust were himself. And the two fragile alien girls clinging to his side, far behind them, the hidden base erupted in flames. The High Command's forces had found it, and soon they would come hunting for him. Kane checked his rifle and looked at the dark horizon. You want them? He muttered. Come and get them. The forest was silent, but Kane knew. Better silence didn't mean safety. It meant the enemy was close. He crouched behind a thick tree trunk, holding his rifle tight. His ears strained for the faintest sound, metal clicking, plasma humming, the whir of drone propellers. The alien girls sat behind him, pressed close together. Kalira's glowing blue eyes stared at him, wide with fear. Sierra clung to her sister's arm, too exhausted to cry. Stay here, Kane whispered.
No matter what.
You hear, don't move, don't make a sound. Kalira nodded slowly, but her trembling hands betrayed her fear. Kane checked his ammo too. Not enough. The High Command wanted these girls badly. They'd send everything to take them back. Kane's jaw tightened. If this was the end, he would make it cost them dearly. A faint hum broke the silence. His heart. Clenched drones. They were sweeping through the forest. Red lights cut through the trees ahead. Kane crouched lower, steadying his breath. If they found him now, the fight would start too soon. The first drone hovered into view. Its red eye glowed like a burning coal. As it scanned the area, Kane raised his rifle. The snow muffled the sound of his movements. One shot. That's all it would take. But just as his finger squeezed the trigger, Kalira let out a small gasp. The drone's eye snapped toward the sound. It let out a mechanical screech. Kane fired. The bullet struck dead center, shattering the red sensor. The drone exploded in a burst of sparks and flame. Move. Kane barked. He grabbed Sierra and pulled Kalira to her feet. They ran, behind them. The forest lit up with red lights. Dozens of drones swarmed through the trees. The hum of engines grew louder, mixed with the heavy stomp of mechs moving in. Kane's heart pounded. There were too many. They reached a rocky outcrop. Kane shoved the girls into a small hollow beneath the stones. Hide here, he ordered. Kalira shook her head, clutching his arm. Don't go, she whispered. I have to, Kane said. If they see you, it's over. Stay hidden. Kalira's glowing eyes filled with tears. Come back. She asked. Kane forced a small smile. I'll try. He turned and ran toward the approaching drones as Kane emerged from the trees. He fired at the nearest machines. Bullets tore through their armor. 2 drones fell in smoking heaps. The others swarmed toward him. Plasma bolts sizzling through the air. Kane ducked behind a boulder, reloading as blasts scorched the snow around him. He was buying time. Time for the girls to escape. That was all that mattered. Mech stomped into view. Its twin cannons glowed as they charged. Kane's eyes darted to the base of the machine. Weak point near the joint. He took aim. The shot rang out. The mech's legs sparked violently. It stumbled, crashing to the ground in a thunderous explosion. Kane didn't pause. He ran. To higher ground, drawing more drones away from the girls. Hiding place. But his legs were heavy. His breath came in ragged gasps. His vision blurred from exhaustion. A plasma bolt grazed his side. Kane staggered. Pain flaring through his ribs. He gritted his teeth and kept moving. On the ridge above, Kane knelt and raised his rifle. The enemy forces spread out below him like a swarm of insects. So, it's many to many. But Kane wasn't afraid, not anymore. He whispered under his breath, "You want me? Come get me." The drones surged toward the ridge. Kane fired until his rifle clicked empty. He drew his pistol, firing again and again. Sparks and smoke filled the air. But no matter how many he destroyed, more came. The mech's cannons charged. Again, aimed straight at him. Kane's chest heaved. He was out of ammo. The glow from the cannons grew brighter. Kane didn't flinch. If this was his last stand, so be it. At least the girls were safe. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted in the forest. Behind him, the air trembled with power. The mech froze. Drones dropped lifelessly to the ground. Their circuits fried. Kane turned, eyes wide. Kalira stood at the edge of the trees. Her small body glowed with blinding blue light. Streams of energy swirled around her. Cracking the air with raw power, she raised her hands, and the energy surged. Outward in a shockwave, the mech's armor cracked and melted. It collapsed with a deafening roar. The remaining drones sparked violently and fell still. Kane staggered toward. "Kalira, stop," he shouted. The glow dimmed. Kalira dropped to her knees, gasping for breath. Kane caught her before she fell. "You shouldn't have come out," he said softly. Kalira's glowing eyes looked up at him, weak but determined. "Save you," she whispered. Kane's throat tightened. "You saved me," he murmured, behind them. The forest was silent again. For now, the enemy had been stopped, but Kane knew they would be back, stronger, angrier. He looked down at the girls, Kalira barely, conscious in his arms. Sira holding his sleeve with tear-streaked cheeks. They were alive, and as long as he drew breath, he would keep them that way. "This isn't over," Kane muttered, staring at the distant horizon. "They want a war. I'll give them one." The night air was heavy and still. Kane sat by the fire, staring into the orange flames. His rifle rested across his lap, but his hands felt useless. His muscles ached, his chest burned with every breath, and his mind was a storm of questions. Across from him, Kalira and Sira slept huddled together under a thick blanket. But even in sleep, Kalira's skin flickered with faint blue light. The power inside her was growing stronger, and Kane didn't know if that was a blessing or a curse. His mind replayed the battle in the forest, the way Kalira had stood there, glowing like a star, and unleashed a shockwave that melted drones and shattered a mech. She'd saved him, but at what cost? Kane didn't know much about alien tech, but even he understood one thing. Power like that would draw attention. The High Command wouldn't just send drones next time. They'd send their elite, the hunters. And when they came, he wasn't sure he could stop them. A sound broke the silence. Kane's head snapped up. Kalira was stirring. Her glowing blue eyes opened slowly, faint and tired. She looked at Kane, her lips trembling. "Hurts," she whispered. Kane moved to her. "Side where?" She pressed a small hand against her chest. "Inside." Burning. Kane's jaw tightened. The core was waking up. Kalira's power wasn't just dangerous to others, it was dangerous to her too. If her body couldn't handle it, she'd die. "You'll be okay," Kane said softly, though he wasn't sure if. It was true. Kalira shook her head weakly. Not okay. Too big.
At.
Too much. What's too much? Kane asked the core, waking. Sierra whimpered beside her sister, clinging to her arm. Kane felt something twist in his chest. They were just kids. They didn't deserve this. A voice came from the darkness behind him. She doesn't have much time. Kane spun around, rifle raised. A tall figure stepped out of the shadows. An alien, but not a soldier. This one wore a long cloak, marked with strange glowing runes. His skin was pale silver and his eyes shone like white fire. Who are you? Kane. Barked the alien, raised his hands calmly. Not your enemy. Then why are you sneaking around my camp? Followed the energy surge, the alien said. I've been tracking it for days, and now I see why. His eyes fell on Kalira. She's a core bearer. No kidding, Kane growled. What do you want with her? The alien's gaze was steady. To save her. Kane didn't lower his rifle. Prove it. The alien didn't flinch. My name is Oris. I'm a seeker. My kind has watched over the core for generations. I know how dangerous its awakening can be. Kane hesitated. What happens if it wakes up fully?
Oris
Looked grim. If the child cannot control it, the energy will burn her from the inside. Her body will be destroyed. And when that happens, he paused. The core will release its power in a massive surge. Everything for miles will be wiped out. Kane felt ice crawl up his spine. You're saying she explode? Yes. Oris said softly, and take you, her sister, and anyone nearby with her. Kane glanced at Kalira. Her small face was pale, her breathing shallow. Sierra held her tighter, unaware of the danger. What do we do? Kane asked. She must complete the awakening, Oris said. She must learn to control the core before it consumes her. How? There is a place. An ancient temple built for the core bearers. If we can get there, I can guide her through. The rite of balance. Kane's eyes narrowed. And if I trust you and you're lying? Oris met his gaze without fear. Then you'll shoot me. But if we do nothing, she'll die either way. Kane looked back at Kalira. Her faint glow flickered. Like a dying ember, he didn't have a choice. Where's this temple? Kane asked. 2 days' journey east, Oris replied. But we'll be hunted the entire way. The High Command will sense her power. It will not let her survive. Kane stood, slinging his rifle. Then we'd better move fast. Hey. Journey begins by dawn. They were on the move. Oris walked ahead, his cloak billowing as he led them through the frozen hills. Kane stayed close to the girls, his rifle ready. Every shadow felt alive. Every gust of wind carried the threat of enemy scouts. Kalira struggled to walk. Her steps were slow and clumsy. Sometimes she stumbled. Kane caught her before she fell. Sorry, she whispered each. Time, don't be, Kane said. You're stronger than you know. But he wasn't sure how much longer she could last. That night, they camped under the stars. Kalira sat apart from the others, staring at her glowing hands. Kane approached her slowly. You okay? She shook her head. Scared of what? Kane asked gently. Hurt everyone. Kane knelt beside her. You're not going to hurt anyone. You're going to control this. You're going to survive. Kalira looked up at him. Promise. Kane hesitated. Then he put a hand on her shoulder. Yeah, I promise. Ow. But deep down, Kane knew the hardest part was still ahead. Far away. Hidden in the shadows of the icy hills, glowing red eyes watched them. A High Command hunter whispered into It comes. The Corbera is moving. Prepare the strike team. No survivors. The icy wind howled through the valley. Kane stood on a rocky ledge, his rifle clutched tight below. The ancient temple of the core loomed massive and alien, carved from black stone that seemed to hum with energy. Blue light seeped from cracks. In its surface, like veins running through a sleeping giant, Kalira leaned heavily against Kane's side. Her skin glowed brighter now, the blue light pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Each pulse sent ripples of energy into the air, making the ground tremble beneath their feet. Sierra clung to her sister's hand. her small face pale with fear. Oris, the Seeker, stood at the entrance. "To the temple. We're out of time," he said. "The awakening must happen now, or she will burn from the inside." Kane glanced at Kael'ira. Her breathing was ragged. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the cold. She looked up at him, her glowing eyes wide. Scared, she whispered. Kane knelt in front of her. "I know," he said softly. "But you're not. Alone, I'll be with you. Every step." Oris placed a hand on the temple wall. The stone shifted with a low rumble, revealing a glowing chamber inside. "Once she enters," Oris warned, "no one else can help her. She must face the core alone." Kane's jaw tightened. "There's no other way?" "No," Oris said. "If you go in, the energy will tear you apart. Only she can survive it. If she's strong enough." Kane looked into Kalira's eyes. "You're the strongest person I know," he said. "You can do this." Kalira's lips trembled. "You, come back." Kane forced a small smile. "I'll be waiting right here when you're done." Kalira nodded slowly. She turned and walked toward the glowing chamber. The light swallowed her small figure as she stepped inside. The stone door closed with a heavy thud. The valley grew silent. Too silent. Kane scanned the horizon. Uneasy. Something wasn't right then? He saw them. Red lights in the distance. Dozens of them. Drones, Kane muttered. But they weren't alone. Larger shadows moved behind the drones' massive alien walkers, their metal legs crunching through the snow. At the center of the formation strode a tall figure clad in black armor, a red cape billowing behind him. Oris's eyes narrowed. The High Command has sent a Hunter Prime. Kane's stomach turned. To ice. What the hell is that? "Their deadliest warrior," Oris said grimly. "He's here for the core bearer. He will destroy anything in his way." Kane checked his rifle. "Then we hold them here." Oris glanced at Kane. "You won't survive this fight. I don't care," Kane said. "They're not getting past me." The drones spread out, surrounding the valley. The Hunter Prime raised a massive plasma blade, its red glow cutting through the snowstorm. "Bring me the core bearer." His voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "Kill the human." Kane took a deep breath. "This is it," he muttered. The first wave of drones surged forward. Kane opened fire. Bullets ripped through the air, tearing holes in the machines. 2 drones fell, then 3, but more came. Oris raised his hands. A surge of blue energy shot from his palms, frying a cluster of drones in a single blast. Still, they kept coming. Plasma bolts hissed past Kane's head, scorching the rocks. He ducked and fired again. His rifle clicked empty. "Out of ammo?" Kane growled. He drew his sidearm and kept shooting. One drone lunged too close. Kane swung the pistol like a hammer, smashing its sensor. Sparks flew as the machine collapsed. But the Hunter Prime was still coming. The giant alien stomped through the wreckage, his plasma blade humming with deadly light. "You are brave, human," the hunter's voice boomed. But this is not your fight." "It is now," Kane shouted. The hunter raised his hand. A blast of force sent Kane flying backward. He hit the ground hard, his pistol skidding across the snow. Pain shot through his ribs. The hunter stepped closer. "This is the end for you," he said coldly. But before the hunter could strike, the air trembled with a deep hum. The ground cracked. Blue light shot up from the temple, so bright it turned the night into day. The hunter froze. What? The temple door exploded outward. Kalira stepped into the open air, her small figure glowing like a star. Her eyes burned with blue fire. Streams of energy swirled around her, lifting her into the air. The snow melted beneath her feet. "You will not hurt them," Kalira said. Her voice was louder now, echoing like 1,000 voices in one. The hunter raised his blade. "You cannot control it, child. You will destroy yourself." Kalira shook her head. "I am the core now." She raised her hands. A surge of power erupted from her body, slamming into the hunter. His armor cracked and sparked. The drones around him disintegrated in waves of blue energy. The hunter roared in rage, stumbling back. Kalira floated closer, her glowing eyes unblinking. "You lose," she said simply. The hunter swung his blade in desperation, but the blue light engulfed him completely in a blinding flash. He vanished, erased from existence. The valley fell silent again. Kalira's glow dimmed. She lowered gently to the ground, her small body trembling. Kane stumbled toward her, catching her as she collapsed. "You did it," he whispered. Kalira smiled weakly. "Safe." "Now, yeah," Kane said softly. "We're safe." Oris approached, his eyes wide with awe. "She's done it. She's balanced the core." Kane held Kalira tight. "You're gonna be okay, kid," he whispered. "You're gonna change. Everything." High above, the alien fleet began retreating. The High Command had lost, for the first time in generations. They feared a single human and two small alien girls. And as Kane stared at the horizon, he knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning.